All right, welcome to the Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast here, episode 91. I got Tyler McGurk with me here on a Father's Day Sunday, a championship Sunday, the first one since the Warriors. Tyler looking like maybe Otto Porter and some of the other Warriors, a little hungover from the championship win. No, I'm just kidding.
It's been a long weekend.
Partying
dancing around, having a good time. Thursday was just I've been on cloud nine since Thursday.
We do walk around a little bit differently. You know what I mean? It's like we did nothing. I did nothing. I'd sweat, no sweat. I did nothing, but I rooted hard for him. This podcast did nothing for him, but maybe it did a little bit. But we walked around.
I'll tell you what I did do. I grew some gray hairs.
Yes,
watch that is damn game. So
that is true. I do get stressed out more than probably they do, which is crazy to think about. In the long term of it, and the superstitions that I have come out. And that's the worst part about me during sports is the superstitions, but I got to deal with it. This year they work. So that was a good thing. The superstitions work. Like Derek, I'll be like, hey, no, they scored 8 straight points. You sit your butt right down there on the couch. You do not move until they give up a basket. He'll be like, Dad. So that's just how I am sometimes towards sports. Obviously not that always to that extreme. But it's always fun when they're in a playoff run. During baseball games, I mean, that's the most stressful for me. Like the A's, like obviously that's like, the Warriors are number 2, kind of, but the A's that's the one team I want to win a World Series, like a championship. That would be unreal to me. But those games are so stressful in baseball because every pitch is so darn slow. Like my heart can't take those games sometimes. So I don't survive well in those ones. But
the blood level rises.
Today, like I did mention, his Father's Day. I thought it's obviously as a dad, you obviously have a son as well. I have 3 kids. It's kind of weird looking back on this day. Mother's Day to me is always more important. I don't know, because I don't really like giving myself more. Like I don't like looking at myself and like, oh yeah, thank me for just being your dad and stuff like that. The moms, I always feel like, oh, it's kind of a more important day, but it is a good day for Father's Day, especially for me to reflect back on like our own dads a little bit and like our grandparents a little bit and other people's dads and people that have adopted people and stuff like that. So, just shout out to all the fathers out there. Big, obviously my dad, he's been a huge part of just kind of being a great example. Like, a lot of people I always think about, the one thing I'm always grateful for is that I have really good parents and I had good grandparents. Like not everybody has that situation. My dad was there. He tried to be there. He worked. He provided. Like that's all you can ask for. Like, as you know, like this isn't like there's no script to this crap, and it's hard at times. You know what I mean? Like you get home from work, you're like, oh, you got to take them. You got to go baseball practice with them or soccer. You're like, son of a, you know what I mean? But then you get out there, and it's all rewarding. It's a long-term reward. So I just encourage dads out there to. You're not your friend. They're not your friends. Be a dad out there with them. Spend time with them. And so I'm just always, I'm very grateful to my dad for that. And obviously, I'm sure you feel the same way about your dad as well.
Yeah, my dad always was there for me. Coached me. He as your dad, the coach for both of them. They were both people I could look up to, like Bob and my dad. Yeah. So I appreciate them a lot. And not everybody is as lucky as we are, so don't take it for granted.
And you having a boy, and I have 2 boys. I think that's where like the father even right there's even a boy. There is a role of that, where you gotta feels a little bit more important in that sense.
Speaking of obviously not liking to celebrate ourselves, like you said, and how Mother's Day, I was about to go to bed, and I get a list from my fiance. Here's some things you got to do tomorrow. I was like, what the hell? What is this? Can't give you a list on Father's Day, but here we are. I'm on my way.
No, maybe she forgot. Maybe she didn't know. You need to maybe on the way there, you could say, hey, I'm going to go to the golf course. Oh, yeah. It'll be a long Home Depot trip. I'll be back for that after that part of it. All right. We'll get going here on the show here a little bit. Also, so Father's Day. Let's kind of now move over to the NBA part of it. We talked the Warriors championship here. I have 4 questions regarding the Warriors since now they're 4-time champs in our lifetime. I know they've won more than that, but in our lifetime, 4-time champs. So let's reflect a little bit on the season or kind of what happened. let's kind of start. My first question here regarding the Warriors is Curry. They discussed it a little bit on the Let's Be Real podcast yesterday. A good discussion. We said we were going to talk about it earlier in the week as well. Where do you have Curry as a top 10 player? Let's kind of reflect on just kind of hit where he fits in that little genre there. Maybe some things you want to point out about him as well.
Just like we talked about a little bit, but on this episode, we'll talk about it more. He just cemented everything he's ever done. There's no more like you can't question, oh, he did this with Love and Kyrie hurt. Oh, he did this with KD being the best player. And he just rode the wave to another championship with him clearly being the best player. It wasn't even close. And he was the best player of the whole playoffs.
Did you actually do a top 10 list as well? Do you have them at number? Do you know where
I
you
have him at number 10.
Okay. Do you have
Kobe? Kobe at 9.
Kobe at 9. Okay. Do you have
people
Shaq in there?
I moved Duncan to 11, which a lot of people find very disrespectful, but I have Kobe and Shaq. I have Shaq ahead of Duncan, which a lot of people don't have.
Yeah, the Duncan argument's always kind of an interesting one to me. He feels automatic, but then you kind of look back, and we could talk that another time here. But with Curry, I think right now we're in the moment, so I feel like he kind of gets bumped up a little bit here. Maybe we'll change that in a couple years.
It's all liquid.
It's all here and there, but I think he does go to number 10. I have him at number 10 there. Overall, I have Durant at number 11. I do have Duncan in there. I don't have Wilt in there. I think that's the big shocker for most people is I don't have Wilt in there in the top 10. I always like Hakeem too, but I can't put him in the top 10 as well. He's close. You know what I mean? I have Shaq in. Right? I have Shaq in. I feel like Shaq it's just too dominant. He's a freak of nature. He's like the biggest. He's like one of the most unique unicorns I've ever seen. So, and maybe that's how I'd feel about Wilt if I saw him too. But I just can't in that regard. I got to keep Russell in because 11 is 11. So you got to keep that in. But on the Curry's part of it too, do you think this does validate him? You said it does, but I feel like there's always more. There's always now it's can he crack that top 5? There's always more to go after. So I always get a kick out of the top 10. Like, what does it really mean? Next year it's going to be, well, if he doesn't win, now he's back to number 12. I feel like that, that's going to be the talking heads always have that part of it. But as Warrior fans here, I think we always appreciate Curry and like we see the day-to-day stuff. We know the impact he has. I feel like we saw some emotion from him at the end of the game that we didn't see in the other finals. I don't know what attributed that. I think maybe some of his, as you get older, there's more things that's happen in your life. Obviously, his parents are going through things too. I have to think that had to play some sort of emotion in his journey there, feeling that as well, and just his injuries and the team, just everything there, overcoming all that. What do you think attributed to some of that emotion? What do you think led to some of that?
I think just the journey after Durant leaving from going to the worst record in the NBA to making the play-in and realizing this isn't a given that I'm going to be in the championship every year. And a lot of people had talked a lot of shit about the Warriors and said they'll never win again. They won't be in the finals ever again. That's Curry's last time being in the finals. And he said before game 4, yeah, I'm the king of petty. I remember it all. And he did the little zero thing like a couple guys on ESPN did over their eye. And I think it just all came to a head. He's like, I did it. I won the one that I think he even felt he needed to win one more to validate everything. Not that he didn't think he was great or unreal NBA great because he was already. But I think he knew this one cemented everything where nobody could say anything again.
And the way the roster talked about it, you kind of felt that as well. Like that's the way Kerr talked about it after and Iguodala. Like we wanted to win this one for him. So yeah, for sure. And him get the MVP with it too. Yeah, he ends up with 27. He averages 27 points a game for the playoffs. What did he get here? He averaged 4 threes made a game. 10 attempts. That's crazy. Yeah, he's just he's automatic. I mean, think about 4 threes a game. That's pretty crazy right there. That's what his average was in the playoffs. So Curry overall just so important to the franchise. By far the best Bay Area athlete we've had here in a while. So shout out to Curry there. Just, man, he seems to be getting a little bit better. I mean, that's the thing. He seems to be adding something to his game. His finishing was unreal these playoffs. That was the thing that used to be something he wasn't as good at in like the 15 year and like the earlier. So he's really improved on that. His strength on defense is much better. He doesn't get just beat up on the post as much as he used to. So it'll be exciting to see what this roster with him, as it grows here. Let's go to number 2, my second question here. Then yesterday we get some news about, gosh, help me with the assistant coach.
The Atkinson guy. Yeah, Kenny Atkinson.
He decides to when Kerr gives Phil Jackson the middle finger, right, with the Knicks a long time ago. Now Atkinson gives Jordan the middle finger. Maybe there's a Kerr theme going here. I don't know the Bulls, that kind of theme there. So anyways, he decides to not coach the Hornets, which he agreed to do. And now he'll stay on as the top assistant with Mike Brown moving on to Sacramento. And then my guy Ant on Twitter pointed out, and a lot of people did, but he's the first one tweeting me. He goes, do you think this means that Kerr is going to move on after next year, the year after? And I immediately was like, I didn't even think of it. Like, I don't know. My mind didn't even go there. I didn't even know it. And then I was like, he's right. That actually might be the case. I was like, oh crap. That's not good. We need Steve. I'm hard on him, but I also know he's important to our team and winning. So, and a lot of people say Atkinson's a good coach and maybe one of the best like 10 coaches in the league, but he's an assistant. I don't know, whatever that means to you there. But I think it does give him a chance to probably take over now for Kerr. Do you think this will be his last year? Or do you think I feel like he's going to go 2 more years to get 10 years in and then kind of go 2 more with this group. And then I think that will be the end of it. Cause I think then that's when the younger guys will be more ready to go.
I think it makes sense if that's what happened. Like, it's the only thing that, like, why I guess, or you want to win more, but you're not going to get any recognition as an assistant coach. So there must be something said that he was like, where Kerr said, hey, you want this job when I'm leaving in a couple years, but you're going to have to stick around for a couple years. And
I need a break. I'm going to have another surgery. You go 24-0 and then I'll pick it up after.
give me a couple months off. Well, hopefully he's a little better than Luke when he becomes the full-time head coach.
I think he is better than Luke. He had more success with the Nets. He had a little bit of a track record even before Luke did. You know what I mean? Like, Luke never was.
What did he get fired for?
I think it wasn't even fired. I didn't think about Nash. Like, it was. I forget what it was. I don't remember why they fired him. I feel like it was kind of unjust at the time, or a lot of people were kind of like, well, that's kind of a weird firing. All right, so I want to point out, I thought that was kind of a big deal, especially with Kerr now kind of starting to get a little bit more respect there. Respect in the sense of like me realizing a little bit more what he's done overall. So we'll see what happens there. Third question here is regarding Klay. Klay runs his mouth at the end of the game there, has a little something to say about the Grizzlies there. I shout out the guys out. I was interested listening to our guys at Let's Be Real yesterday. All 3 of them said it's nothing. They're like, come on, this is nothing. So to their credit, they said, this is a guy like what the one, I forget what it was. One of them said, you can't get mad at a guy that said, holy cannoli. So they said, so I thought that was well said in it. Draymond, that's a whole nother story. He's still tweeting. Him and John Morant are just going back and forth. I almost feel like it's a podcast thing at this point. But I do want to shout out Klay, though, because his journey of 3 years back, you can't underestimate that. I mean, that's having a massive knee injury, then having an Achilles injury back-to-back. I know he's your favorite player on the Warriors roster. A lot of people are like, oh, he's annoying because he's always talking. He's always kind of said low-key trash talking things like that his whole career. If you look at it, I see him. I just want to point him out because I feel like he's the best Robin that any superstar can ever have. I mean, he praises Curry. He doesn't he's never looking to ever step on Curry's shoes. Like, there's no jealousy there at all. The media, even if they never really try, because I feel like Klay won't even really go for it. He would just kind of be like, oh, whatever. And I feel like he respects it so much. But I think we also need to shit out how good as Curry was. Curry's success comes a lot off of Klay. Like, you might say, well, Klay's numbers weren't great, but he still had big games in the playoffs. He hit big shots in that game 4, even though Curry dominated, right? But he hit big shots. He hit big shots in game 5 there. So I don't know. I just think it's important that Klay gets his kind of due respect for that layoff and the work back. But more importantly, as one of the best sidekicks ever, it's the Splash Brothers. I know Curry is part of it, but he is part of that group.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it best with him being the best like teammate as far as like he just does his thing. He's not even when Durant came, he's like, what do I don't care. I'm still shooting the ball when I'm open. He knows his role and he fulfills it. And the defense got better as the playoffs went along too, which was huge. And he's just the coolest guy I've like, and to think that these NBA players aren't petty to like drive them and be competitive. Of course, they have things that like maybe you shouldn't say it, but it's who cares? Like, he said.
Oh, there's petty things said all the time, right?
What?
There's petty things said all the time. Wasn't it like
absolutely.
Like after like LeBron with the cupcakes, right? Cookies and like wasn't
that
like
that Ultimate Warrior T-shirt he wore, like people
there's
do
always
shit.
pettiness.
It's part of basketball.
Yeah, and like I feel like with the Grizzlies, like that in particular, that trash talking, like maybe they didn't call anybody a clown or a bum during the season, but they were asking, they were talking trash to other teams. Wasn't their slogan like "We want the smoke" or like something like that, right? Too, or something like that, or I thought it wasn't something like that. Tyler, help me out.
I don't know their slogan, but the whole original.
But they wanted I thought it was something like we want all the smoke or something like that.
Yeah. I think they did.
So it's not like we want to trash talk a little bit. Dylan Brooks did kind of call it Iggy earlier. Remember the season 2 for that thing there. And then there was the strength in numbers. It wasn't unnecessary.
Even that tweet is
it's unnecessary.
Trash talk. Like
you're
coming at that. Like if you want to see who started it, like if you want to go that way. But I just don't think it's a big deal. It was
I don't think it either. I think if anything, I think it's fun. I think it's a good rivalry for the league.
Now Twitter the Memphis fans can feel important that the Warriors keep talking about.
And we'll get into that a little bit more here, part 2 of the pod here. I went back and watched a little bit of this Bulls Pistons like 1990s series a little bit, and the Dumars is the only other example I can think of any other shooting guard in history in my like kind of lifetime I could see of like a good shooting guard that was a perfect like Robin into Isaiah Thomas in that sense. He like played defense, could score. He's the only other guy to Klay I can think of that is like almost perfect. 1-2 championships, was all defensive team. So other than him,
did it a little differently, but it was perfect.
But it was still the same impact. I feel like it was the same impact, but more importantly, he understood he understood he wasn't the best player.
Yeah.
That's important. Like you can't have an ego with it. Or hopefully he doesn't. Maybe he'll go Scottie Pippen, Klay Thompson now. Klay writes a book 30 years from now, ripping on how he doesn't like Curry. You saw that with Scottie now, ripping on Jordan on his book now. Unbelievable, Scottie.
Anything to sell books these days. But like you said, Klay is the only person he thanked that wasn't blood for this journey was Steph. They have a relationship, but it seems unbreakable at this point. They've been through so much. So like you
got to keep them together forever. Can't break that combination up. All right, last one here on the Warriors here. Where do I feel like it's the best organization in sports now. Shout out to my friend Matt back when they are in the NBA at least. Best shout out to my friend Matt back when the Warriors were up for sale. I wanted the other rich guy to buy the team. I forget what his name is. Larry Ellison. I was like, he's rich. I know this guy. We want him. He does the yacht races in San Francisco. And he's like, no, you want to get these guys lake up. He probably knew nothing about it either. He just likes the underdog. And Matt, you can correct me on that if I'm wrong. And sure enough, Lake and Goober end up getting the team, and thank God they did because they've changed it around. They pump everything they said. The owner said everything they make from that stadium, they put it back in the team. This thing about coming out now about the Warriors outspending an NBA is ridiculous. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I'm not one to like defend my teams like that kind of like, but I wouldn't even say about any other NBA team.
Yeah, exactly.
There's pretty harsh restrictions in the NBA. You know what I mean? With that luxury tax and stuff. They're like the Lakers didn't want to pay Caruso. That's why they let him go. So the Warriors don't have to sign Oubre and pay $100 million, but they did. Oubre didn't work out, but Wiggins did. So, I don't think, you should spend your money on this team. So all that crap is annoying to me. I'm glad that's over. So what do you think the window? What do you think the window is for this team next going forward here?
I think I got 3 years, 2, depending on how they take care of it, how Draymond ages, basically 2 to 3 years.
Good at looking.
No, it doesn't. But I'd say 3 years with this core, unless Wiseman, Kuminga, and Moody, one or two of them take a huge step, then I think Curry has about 5.
I think
four,
that's the key.
Klay
right?
has a couple, and Dre is a wild card.
We got to get another guy. We got to get Poole to come up. We got to get Kuminga to make one of those guys have to kind of make a little jump there. And we got to get, one of them has to make a jump. It'd be nice if Wiseman was one of them to replace Looney at some point, because Looney's going to be the odd man out probably. Or that would just be my guess.
Can they not take him as they need a big? They literally have 0.
No,
bigs.
if there's anybody
that's
that they
the
were
one guy
they
they have to bring back almost.
I know.
That'd
be interesting to see. It'll be interesting.
No size.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting. You would hate to see him go, but I can't see them giving him 50 million. Let's say if you're Sacramento Kings,
Mike Brown,
50 million. The Kings better not do that. Anyways, so 5 years. I got them at 5 years as well. I think Curry at 39. That's his end of his kind of 37. Klay 35. They're still going to be capable shooters. Does Poole make that jump to kind of be able to now maybe kind of do what Curry's doing a little bit more now? But the bigs, I feel like Wiseman and Kuminga are the key. They're the most athletic young guys on the team. Can they make the biggest jump? And we'll see what happens with Wiggins going forward there.
You bringing up Poole.
Yeah.
Can Poole just hang out with Stephen Curry and go to the gym with him every day?
Workout.
That's all I want to do. Just get Curry's big. Curry was the same size. He was getting pushed around, like you said earlier, and he turned into at least defender you couldn't just run over.
Yeah, he's got to get better. No doubt, especially at the
defense,
because they were just posting him up. That was one of my notes. If they went to 1 game 5, it would have been one of them was get Poole off the floor. If you have to freaking triple team everybody in a post up matchup, that was literally, I was getting so pissed off. And then he banked it in. I was like, I forgive you. I forgive you and I love you from now on. Don't worry about any of the post up. You baked in that 3. Good job. All right. When we take a break there, that was the good Warriors. Kind of wrapped up 4 questions there moving forward. Talked a little Curry, talked a little coaching situation there. Klay, what the future might be here. Let's kind of finish up the pod. We'll go part 2 here, get Casey on joining us. We'll have some questions kind of regarding KD, get into the NBA draft a little bit here, and then we'll do our own little coaching draft. Which team would we not want to coach in the NBA? So look forward to that. We'll be right back. All right, we're back here, Fatboy FadeAway Sports Podcast, episode 91. See below Casey Breyer back with us, joining us for part 2 of the pod here. Talk Warriors part 1. We're going to get into a little bit more here, a few kind of NBA, bonanza type questions here that we kind of want to hit a few different subjects here before we call it a pod. Now that the NBA season's over, it kind of quickly moves into the NBA draft, NBA free agency, trades. It really happens actually kind of fast, because as soon as July 4th happens, it's go time, right? There's everything going on. Everything's kind of done by that time for the most part. So and then you get summer league. Some people are really into that, that kind of deal. So it's going to be nonstop here as we move forward. But the draft I've always enjoyed, and that's the one thing with Twitter. I have found some people that also love the draft, and it's just unbelievable, the memories that come up and the way different people look at the draft. So I love getting into convos about that. This year's draft, I got to be honest, I don't know. I'm not as deep knowledge-wise in the draft. I'm probably about 15 guys I'm very aware of. Everybody else, not so much. Anybody overseas, never seen. So I've never seen, so not even a highlight. So that's where I'm coming from the draft. But I have read some articles, got some information there. Obviously, stay at the date on it. Tyler, I want to start with you at the draft. We already kind of have a feeling who the top 3 picks are going to be. Magic have the first pick, the Thunder 2. Help me out. Detroit 3rd. I just had it right with me.
Houston 3rd.
And then Sacramento 4. So with that being the case, what are you expecting? You think Smith will go first to the Magic?
Yeah, I can't imagine Jabari not going first. He just has that. He can shoot. So can Holmgren, but he's not as skinny and white.
I feel like that's the combo we need to have.
To be real, I'm taking Jabari Smith. He looked like he just looked like an NBA player in college, and Yeah, he's
I
very
like
athletic.
Chet though. I think I'm one of the rare people that kind of like Chet. I know people rip on him because he's got like 6'7" frame, but he's 7'3". But he has good instincts. Like he does have like the skills that not very many people. You got to admit that he's
I don't
different.
mind Chet. That's he's just too small. He's got to get bigger.
He's
If
so good at
he
blocking
can't look
shots.
like Manute Bol his whole career.
Don't you feel like he's bigger? Like we talked about Thabit last week on the podcast, right? And being picked number 2, right?
Well,
We
he has
talked
way
about
more
that.
offensive skill than Thabit.
And he's faster. We remember that was like, we were like, he's not quick enough, but he was like, it's kind of funny that this is kind of one of those drafts where now you have this massive tall guy going number 2, possibly again, with this possibility to score. But he definitely has way more offensive potential than Thabit ever had, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Case, I know you watched a lot of, I want to get your thoughts on the draft here too, but I really want to kind of get your thoughts on the guy from Purdue, Ivey. And because you said you watched a lot of Big Ten basketball this year, I thought that was hilarious. Living out in North Dakota, those Big Ten Mondays on Fox Sports there. I love it. Ivey to the Kings would be he didn't even work out for the Kings. So that probably is a sign of, I don't really want to play there. But this is where the Kings need to get over that crap. If they think he's the best player, just take him. Figure that crap out later. He's under your, you know what I mean? Like, he's got to play for you for 3 years. You know what I mean?
The Kings did draft Davion Mitchell, and he didn't work out for them either last year. So they have.
I would disagree with that. I think if you look at Mitchell's last 20 games, he actually had
No, I don't think you heard what I said then.
But I misheard you then.
Davion Mitchell didn't work out for the Kings last year, and they still drafted him.
Gotcha. Didn't work. I thought you meant didn't work out in terms of how he played.
No.
I hear you. So that does make sense there. I feel like the only thing with Ivey case with the Kings is that would give him 3 guards again. Maybe you could give me a little input on Ivey's game and how you think he might fit with the Kings, where he's in a lot of mock drafts. He's looking to go right now.
So Ivey, like I said, he's kind of like a tweener between Jaylen Brown and Dwayne Wade. He finishes excellent around the rim. He's actually got a pretty good 3-point shot. He definitely needs to work on his defense. That's probably his biggest default right now. But I think he's just a gamer. He's somebody that's really basketball IQ. It's really off the charts, really smart. And he's a winner. Every time the Purdue, and like you said, I've watched Purdue basketball. Ironically, I don't know why. It just, every time it was on, they just happened to be the team that was on there. But he just seems to have the instincts to really elevate his teammates around him. And I think that, as an NBA superstar, I'm not going to say he's going to be a superstar, but in order to have those qualities, I think basketball IQ, raising the teammates around you to make them better. I really think you can't miss on this pick. I think he's the best prospect coming out besides the guy from Duke.
He's the consensus number 4 pick. So a lot of people say Smith 1, Holmgren 2, Banchero 3, Ivey 4. That's where most mock drafts have him. Ivey, I feel like with the Kings though, that's the fit, right? It's like the Kings always have guards. They need wings. And so to me, that's where it kind of gets interesting for them. And of course they don't to me, a perfect situation for them would be if the Rockets took Ivey and then they can get Banchero. That's where the Kings need to hope that they can land in that spot. Personally, even maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Ivey turns out to be a stud and they can unload Fox at some point. Maybe that's the gift they get. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing that wrong, but I feel like if they draft Ivey, they're back to starting. They're just back to that guard look. And I just don't think that's the best way to go there. But gee, what do you think about him with the Kings possibly?
I like Ivey with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox doesn't fit with anybody really though. He's just one of those guys that I don't want to pair up with anybody. He's individually great. So it's hard I'd go Keegan Murray for just because of the fit. But I don't want fit with the Kings. Draft Ivey and trade Fox then if he's the best player. And that's what Casey, you're saying. Don't want to go guard heavy.
No, but I'm saying if he's the best player.
I'd rather have Halliburton than Ivey probably. Why would I don't get I don't know.
It'd be interesting. I kind of like I don't know, that's an interesting fit there, Case. Ivey. I think him on the Rockets would be kind of nice with Green, to be honest there. A lot of people have Banchero going to the Rockets too. I think Banchero, personally, the reason I like Banchero is just his calmness, but my fear is Because I used to like Evan Turner for those same reasons. He turned out Casey to be, he was okay, but I didn't like, I think Banchero will be better than him, but this draft is unique to me just in the sense of like, there, a lot of people are like, oh, there's a lot of depth in it, but I look at the draft and I go, there's not a lot of great names on this list here. I see maybe, there's always a few guys though that always make an impact in the NBA. So that's the part.
I'd be interested to see what Tom Witt has to say about who he wants the Kings to draft.
Yeah, we should have him on here after.
To me though, I mean, I recognize talent. There's one thing I know basketball and other sports. Maybe I'm not as qualified to speak on, but basketball is definitely my strength. And when I see Ivey, I feel like he's a winner. He has that championship type level where I think he can raise his game to changing a franchise. And that's what the Kings need. They've drafted okay players, talented players, but no one that has that drive to make everyone and that franchise whole. And I think the Kings have not had that. I mean, even when they got Chris Webber and Vlade, those guys came over. They were never drafted, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I think the Kings, if they take Ivey, I think you can't miss on him. You're making a big mistake if you pass on him.
He did lose to St. Peter's in March Madness.
Well, everybody lost to St. Pete's. They couldn't lose. St. Pete's was unfair. I do want to say if Ivey is drafted, Fox, get that suitcase, get that house on the market. You don't want to get that house on the market. All right. So Smith, he looks like he's going to go to the Magic. That makes the most sense. Holmgren to be the most interesting prospect next year in the league. If he goes to the Thunder, him and that Giddey character together will be an interesting match. It'll be interesting to see how they play because they're both very smart players. So we'll see what happens. If Chet even stand up.
So I want to ask this. Do you think Chet will be a bust or an all-star? No,
I think he'll be an all-star. I think he'll be an all-star.
Yeah.
I like it. I think his defense. He's 7'3".
Are those the two options, bust or all-star?
I don't think he's going to be in between bust or all-star.
Well, I'll go with bust.
I'm going bust too.
I think his injury risk has to be high. He's 7'3", and that tall,
the body of a 6'4" woman.
And he's a bag of bones. So I'd go bust before all-star, but we'll see.
I just love his defense. That's the part I'm going to go with him. I want to keep it going here. The draft there, like we said, coming up, we'll have definitely some reaction to that come maybe even the day up. I think we should have a little reaction to that day. All right. With the Warriors winning the championship here this year, we kind of get the KD narrative, of course.
Say it again.
With the Warriors winning the championship, we get that KD narrative. No, and KD always is in the news, always tweeting all that. But just to kind of remember how like when Durant won those 2 championships on the Warriors, it kind of put a little pressure, it felt like, from, I don't know, just people to kind of like, again, put the media heads and us putting a little pressure on like what they mean with those championships, like who's on those teams. And obviously with Durant now off the Warriors and now the Warriors able to win a championship, kind of feels like the pressure now goes on Durant to kind of have to respond with a championship to kind of justify his move off the Warriors to the Nets. So it's, obviously nobody's going to say he's a terrible player. Like I said, I have him at number 12 overall. So that's not changing, but just the idea of winning a championship title. What do you think of Durant there and that kind of narrative?
I mean, he has to win. What do you mean? Like, as far as if he wants to pass Curry, he has to win one. Like,
well, what do you think? I guess what I'm trying to say is like, does the pressure, is that something you kind of think is a real now? It feels like.
I think he's feeling it for sure.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. He has to be. That's the whole reason he went to the Brooklyn to get one on his own, or like without Steph and the guys.
Yeah.
So he has to be feeling it. And that roster is not that good. I mean, I guess they have some options with Ben Simmons and Kyrie to do something, but those three together, I don't see working out.
Harris is, if he comes back. Harris isn't terrible.
I mean, he had a rough playoffs against the Bucks 2 years ago.
That's true. He did. He did. If you're Durant, you almost want to get back in the West. You don't want to play against the Onyx in the East. Get out of the West there. Case, what do you think of the Durant thing there? Do you think the pressure kind of on him now to win?
I personally, for him, I don't think he really cares. He's just
Well, that's not a good sign for him if he doesn't care.
well, his
I think he
personality.
does care.
No, I think he cares.
See, I think you're underestimating it. Once you care a little bit, if you left the team, you won championship with our humble pie team, and then you leave our recreation team to go to join another team in the rec league.
And that team says we don't
lose and we win the championship. Then you're feeling the pressure that you got to win.
And the team says on your way out, we don't need you, bitch. Yeah.
You got hooked up on that one. I think he's just got a different personality than most people.
Yeah.
I think he knows that he is the greatest player when he's healthy. I mean, he pretty much almost beat Milwaukee by himself. So I mean, yeah, it's gonna sting. It's gonna sting a little bit, but I think he doesn't need to win another championship to validate his status. I think he is one behind Steph Curry, and that's where it is. Yeah. But the only reason I put him right behind Steph is Steph won without him, and he did it before and after. But Kevin Durant, he's the most talented player in the NBA. To me, I think he's the most gifted player that's probably played in the last 25 years.
Definitely most, yeah, I'd say that because of scoring ability, you can't do anything. He can score at all three levels, and he's taller than anybody, and like his free throw percentage is unreal. His defense is even better now. Yeah, no, he's just kind of an interesting teammate at times. That's all. It's kind of like his only downfall. He's just a little bit of social media.
The only thing I think he might regret, and you can look at it now, is I don't think he really understood how Kyrie Irving is not all about basketball, and Kevin Durant is all about basketball. So to me, as I'm looking at it, Durant's probably more frustrated that he is all in and Kyrie is not.
And can I push back on you on the Durant's all in on basketball? I think he is, but I feel like if he was all in, he might have stayed with the Warriors.
I don't think he wanted that free ride label.
Yeah. I agree, Tyler. I agree 100%.
But for sure, he's all about basketball. He doesn't tweet about non-basketball issues. Like, he does do the tweeting too much, but I think he does that because he's like, you guys are idiots. What are you talking about?
Tyler,
I know basketball more than you.
What's it called on Twitter? The little circle that you can put in your, if they call it something on your Twitter account, the little, I forget what they call it, where you, like, I have our logo, Fatboy FadeAway. You have like your picture.
Your profile picture?
Yeah, but they have, there's two different ones. But anyways, the one with the circle, I love his. It's from that cartoon. I feel like my daughter watched the movie Tangled, and it's the part where he has the swords. Oh, Anna, there's like 25 swords at his face.
Is that really what his little?
Yeah, and before that, he used to have the Sandlot guy pointing up, the ham pointing for a home run. He used to have him for years. So I always loved Durant's little logos there with it. Case also with Durant there. I feel like the pressure does go to him. The biggest spot is, what does Irving do? What do they do there with Irving? I feel like he's the biggest key. They obviously have the two best scorers maybe on their team if you look at it. So anyways, let's keep it going here. Number 3, still got a lot to get to. What would be the most bitter teams this year from not winning the championship? I always like to kind of say Damian Adams did a good job on his last podcast talking about, obviously, I think we're all going to say the Bucks. So he did a good job saying why the Bucks were a team. Middleton getting hurt in the second round or first round, infecting this, whatever round it was, he got hurt there. And I feel like it was the second round. So he didn't play. And they lost to Boston, of course, but that's a what-if team. He did a good job pointing that one out. Do you guys have another what-if team that you kind of feel like, or do you want to expand on the Bucks a little bit to their team? Okay, sorry. Let's give you.
No, it's all good. I was gonna say it would be Phoenix Suns for me. Just because they had the best record, coach of the year. DeAndre Ayton. I don't know what's going on in Phoenix, but there is a lot of turmoil that's happening, and it looked like in that last game that they just gave up. Like they were not cohesively a team. And I think that's a big problem going forward. I really do. I know Chris Paul is kind of like at the latter end of his career, but Phoenix Suns, I mean, if you have the best record, you can't go out like that, right? I mean, to lose in that fashion, I mean, that they did not look like they were happy with each other. Like, I think Phoenix could go down a road where they might be in the lottery in a couple of years.
I think that's a fair point there. And I think it's also fair to point out, like, the way the Warriors dispatched the Mavericks, I'm sure the Suns were way off on they kind of like what you're kind of talking about. There's something just not there chemistry wise. Tyler, you got a team?
First off, it's Ayton and the owner got in a big tiff over the contract, and then he and Monty Williams got in a huge fight, and Monty Williams just sat him out the whole like second half of that game, or like the first last 2.5 quarters. So there was definitely a tiff going on in Phoenix. Mine's the Grizzlies. They have to. I mean, at least my Twitter feed shows me a lot of bitter Grizzlies fans. Yeah. And they have a right to be bitter. Durant missed the last 3 games.
Yeah.
And so, like, you miss your superstar player. It's a tough pill to swallow when the team you lose to wins the championship.
Yeah, obviously that's a what if. It's like, that's always kind of the what if scenario there with the Jordan Poole and that part of it. I do think they're on the what if list. I had them as the number 3 team behind the Suns. I had the Bucks, Suns, Grizzlies as well there. If I was going to throw out a 4th team, maybe that's just a little bit bitter. I don't know. I was trying to think of what I could. There's nobody else that should feel like the Sixers. No, there's no, you traded for Harden, you deserve a slap in the face. You don't deserve anything like that. The Nets are the only other team I was thinking. Just, it's a what if, like, from the very beginning of the year, basically. Yeah. But so that's the hard thing with them.
I really
you want to say something?
Yeah, I thought Atlanta was in there. I mean, Capella went down. Collins was out.
You and your Atlanta Hawks. You.
Well, I mean, they made the Eastern Conference Finals last year, so I mean, that's a tough blow if the Grizzlies fans want to whine and complain about Ja going out. I mean, injuries happen. It's part of the game. Look,
Casey, I think your Atlanta Hawks
whole year.
Casey, I think your Atlanta Hawks should go get Rudy Gobert. That's who I think they need to get. If there's a spot for Rudy, I feel like it's with Trae Young. He doesn't. Trae. I feel like that's the spot. Trae can throw those lobs all day. They need some sort of defensive presence in there. That's where I feel like Rudy can fit. That's my team.
Stay away from Rudy. If you want to lose the second round, take Rudy.
Mr. Rudiger?
Maybe they can still put John Collins in the 4th quarter. Sit Rudy in the 4th. He'll play in there. Rudy will be the highest paid 20-minute player in the league. So, all right, let's go to number 4 here. What was my question here? Oh, yeah. What teams are you keeping an eye on, and what player maybe are you keeping an eye on in the next year? Is there a team here? So here's my team. You guys can react to my list here. I got the Nets. They have the 2 best scorers, no depth. I want to see what they do. I want to see the Heat. They're the other team that's on my list is Riley Reload. I feel like they're pretty close there. They have the defense. They need help though scoring. The Grizzlies, do they keep developing their young players? Do they make an Iggy move like the Warriors got in their early part of the run? Is there a guy that they can add that's a premium player that can add to their list that changes the dynamic altogether? And then the Clippers, do they ever get healthy? I feel like Kawhi and Paul George, if they ever could play a playoff series together healthy, obviously that would be a very tough matchup for any team going against them, especially if you have Reggie Jackson that can score a little bit and some other pieces there. So those are my what if teams. You guys got maybe a team that you're looking, just quickly, a team you're kind of keeping an eye on. If it's one of those, that's fine. Tyler?
Mine's the Lakers. I mean, is Anthony Davis going to be healthy? Well, and probably not. And what do they do with Westbrook? Supposedly they're looking to get Beal.
Well, Ham said they're going to do some more slashing with him.
So we'll see what happens. LeBron's in year, 19? And still putting up 30 a game. So I think the Lakers are the team that didn't make the playoffs or weren't that. Yeah. Went from not interesting this year to I think they'll be interesting next year.
Case, you got a team that you think you're kind of keeping an eye on next year? Or there's the off season, just kind of what they might do.
There's 2 of them. I mentioned that to you the other day. Dallas adding Christian Wood.
That was a big addition.
They're pretty close. Luka, another year. I think they'll, obviously just more experience. They'll figure it out a little bit more. I think they'll add a couple more pieces. And the other one is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Really interested to see how Garland and, how they had a a great season. And so I just want to see if they can just build on that and maybe get someone in the draft. But I think Cleveland might be up and coming right now.
And Cleveland has a Sexton piece they should trade now that Garland proved it. That's what I would do if I were them. But they might want to wait to see if Sexton can like play better and move on. But I think at this point, Garland proved that he should be the lead dog. They should try to get a better piece for him. That's what I would do. That's a good call there. I kind of low key Pelicans as well. If Zion plays, that's a team that will be on my earliest. That will be on my early NBA. I know next year we'll do our draft with NBA league pass teams. My boy Jose automatically jumps in the top 3 on the on the list. So I want to see if when Zion's back there. All right, last little part here of our. Oh wait, hold on. My quick question I had on Twitter. I want you guys to answer. It was, do you prefer the NBA draft or the NFL draft?
I prefer the NFL draft. But that's 2 rounds of intrigue where the NBA is like a top 10.
To me,
Casey, I'll let you go first.
I prefer the NBA. The NFL is just too drawn out.
Yeah.
It's too much. Like after the first 10 picks, I have no idea who the hell's like. I have no clue. I don't even know the colleges. I know Brian Johnson, our boy, Mini Chef.
Well, that sounds like a you problem.
Mini Chef knows the 1 through 7 round, but I just prefer the NBA. I'm more affiliated watching basketball at a college level than I am football. So.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with you too with the NBA part of it. For me, it was always the NBA draft because the NFL draft used to have like 15-minute picks. So when that was the case, that was a no-go. That was a no-go. I was like, are you telling me we're 7 hours in and we're still on pick 12? Are you telling me? That was always the worst one to be there. The NBA draft definitely intrigues me more. That's the reason the NBA always intrigues me more is the draft day trades and the hat. Like, I don't know what it is. There's something about the images of the players coming up with the hat. Like, there's something I just enjoy about that part of it a lot more.
What about the MLB draft?
Let's have our little draft here. Let's have our little draft to end the podcast. I asked you guys to kind of think of the top teams you would not want to coach going into next year. You could have like whatever, you can think however you want. I don't care what ownership, roster, superstar player you wouldn't want to coach. I don't care the reasons, but just the top teams that you would not want to coach. So Tyler, you will get the first pick in this draft. So who would be the first team that are on your list that there is no way that you would want to take this job?
I think this is an easy choice. I'm taking the New York Knicks. I want nothing to do with James Dolan. I don't like the roster very much. I don't want to live in New York. It's freezing cold or it's humid. The taxes are out of this world. I do not want to coach the New York.
Coming from our state. Zach is there. All right, Knicks. I have them at number 6. So that's a little lower than I have. Case, let's got to cross them off the board. I'll give you the second pick here. What team would you not want to coach? Tyler, a little surprised there at the Knicks.
I would not want to coach the Charlotte Hornets.
Wow.
Jordan is a great player all time, but the worst person to ever draft teams. And I mean, granted they tried, but I mean, it's just it's awful. I mean, they never do anything. I mean, they haven't been relevant since like what? Larry Johnson. I mean, that's
Baron Davis. Baron Davis. That's what they were relevant.
Baron Davis. Yeah,
that's the last time. That's the last time. Casey, you're pulling Atkinson. You're pulling. You're leading the Hornets. You don't want to coach them.
Yeah, I do not want to coach the Hornets. They just never seem to do anything good.
Honestly, they didn't make my list. They were close to the end, but I thought the roster was just good enough for me to maybe do something with on that. But you're right. Maybe a year ago, they might have been on this list. So I think they're some of the Bridges part of it, I think changed my mind a little bit there. All right, my pick here. I'm going to go. I had number 1 on my list here is the Rockets. I like Green, but the Rockets roster is pretty bad. And I don't know what I'm getting from their ownership sometimes. The guy's a little different there, Alexander. The Rockets always do they do spend. I do like that part of them, but there's this kind of other part that's a little weird with them. They're kind of connected with. I don't like some of their connections they have off the court as well. I'm going to stay away from the Rockets. I do like Green, but this
great strip clubs.
Yeah, I like Green, but if they get Banchero and Green, maybe I change my mind there. But right now, the Rockets are number 1 pick. I do not want to coach the Rockets. So
that's surprising. I had them at 6. I wasn't that. I like some of their roster, and they'd spend and taxes.
I don't like the road or the taxes. You don't think of taxes. All right, Tyler, back to you with the 4th pick overall. What team are you?
I have Orlando. I don't care if I'm getting the 1st overall pick this year. There's just no talent on that roster as of now, other than Franz, and
I like Suggs.
Yeah. What?
I like Suggs. What's the guy
he was terrible last year?
What's the guy Philly drafted that he's starting to play back for them? He tore his ACL last year. He was the number 1 pick there with Tatum. I forget his name. He was out of Washington. Yeah.
Those are no reasons to go on to go and coach a team.
They got a rough one there. All right, so Tyler takes the Magic. I had them 5th on my draft board here. Casey, where do you got? Who you got the next pick here?
My apologies to Tom Witt, but I would not want to coach the Kings.
I had them 3.
I had them at 4.
The ownership is terrible. Their drafting, their development and players. I mean, Kevin Johnson, he was a savior, but maybe at the same time, he probably should have just let the Kings walk. I don't know. At this point, it's just, I feel bad for him because, when the Kings are in it, obviously they're part of that Bay Area that we're like, it's kind of like the sisterhood or brotherhood of it. And
I love their cowbells when they're good.
they're not good. It's hard to watch. I feel bad for
Sacramento. And their owner, right? Their owner's a little kind of different as well. I like their GM a little bit. He's okay. Casey, I'm gonna say I had him at 2, but I just bumped him to number 3 because I like Tom Witt too much, and my sister lives in Sacramento, so I couldn't put him at number 2 because of those reasons. Amanda, we go to Kings games once a year. I could not put the Kings at number 2. I had to jump up to number 3, but that is a good call. Come on, 16-year drought going on 17. Yes, that's a team you don't want. You get fired. Mike Brown, God bless you.
16 going on 17 sounds like a Disney movie.
Mike Brown. All right. I had number 2. So you guys didn't take either of my top 2 picks here. And I have the 6th pick overall. So the second team I would not want to coach is, those Washington Wizards. That team I would want to stay away from as well. I don't want Beal, that whole situation, that owner. They are the Kings of the East. They are they might make the playoffs once in a blue moon, more because the East has been terrible over the years. They did have that little small run with Wall and Beal, but no, I don't want that roster. I don't want Porzingis. I don't want any of those guys on that team.
You loved Porzingis 2 years ago.
I did, but Porzingis shows 0 heart now, and I don't like him as much. So I don't want that team. I'm not coaching them. So I got the Wizards. Tyler, your last pick here. Who do you got?
It's a tough call between one team, but I'm going to go with Indiana.
Really?
No thanks. I don't like the roster.
I thought you liked Halliburton, you said.
I like him more than Jaden Ivey. That doesn't mean I like their roster.
And Turner.
Who?
All right,
Miles?
I had them number 9. I had them number 9. That's a surprising one. So is it
I'm
living
at
in
7.
Indiana? Is living in Indiana part of the issue? Living in Indiana, Tyler?
Taxes have good taxes in Indiana.
You don't want to live there, though. That's part of the reason probably don't want to do it. And then you have a great stadium, apparently. Casey, your last pick, what team do you not want to coach her?
This one was pretty tough, actually. I was in between 2 teams, but I'm going to go with the Detroit Pistons. I know they got Kate Cunningham, and I'm really high on him. I think he'll be a great player, but Detroit just has a way of messing things up. I don't know. They for whatever reason, they keep drafting players that are kind of like the Kings. They keep drafting players that are the same identical height. And it doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you have a point guard, don't draft another point guard. If you have a center, don't trade for a center. It doesn't make sense to me. So I guess, I know Detroit in the past has been good, obviously, with the championship teams, but I really Detroit to me is just a destination that honestly not a lot of people want to go to.
Yeah, right now it's not on the list. They drafted. I have that guy C. Henry. I've been listening to his podcast a lot more, and he's actually out of Detroit. So he actually occasionally talks to the Pistons every once in a while. Not saying that he likes them, but he's honest about them. Yeah. So what I mean by not liking him is he's honest about him, but he's obviously a Pistons fan. So you get a perspective from somebody that kind of is rooting for him. And so just to kind of say what you're saying, he he kind of agreed with you because the guy they drafted, like Killian Hayes, point guard, 6'5", right? And then they have Bay, 6'7", Stewart. I do like Isaiah Stewart, though. I will say that about Detroit. The guy he did go after LeBron. He was attacked. He was going linebacker. He was running through people, knocking over his own coaches to try to get to LeBron. That might have been the highlight of the year last year. So
the Lions should look into something.
the Lions might need to. So I hear you on that one. It's a good call, though. And they have Kelly Olynyk, so you don't want to coach that guy. I hear you on that one. All right, so I'm gonna go. It was a hard one for me. I had them at number 4, believe it or not, is the Blazers. The Blazers I had on there because I feel like Lillard's is coming to an end there. If they don't do anything in free agency, I just can't see Lillard saying, yeah, let's stick around for 3 more years. Yeah, I just can't see that happening. Their roster was a disaster last year. We saw that team. They were giving up 130 like it was nothing. So, I mean, they'll obviously get a few guys back like Nurkic, and they'll be a little better at the beginning of the year, but that's the team right now, I don't see it. They're kind of in an ownership kind of weird little spot right now. If Phil Knight buys the team, maybe sign me up, but we'll see what happens there with that part of it. So that's kind of my draft there with it. Tyler, you want to throw out a few other teams with it?
I had the Lakers because if LeBron doesn't like you, you're getting fired.
Real talk.
I had the Nets because I don't want to deal with Ben Simmons.
Kyrie too.
And and Kyrie. And then I think that was I think I had one more.
Thunder. I had the Thunder on there too.
The Thunder.
Because I want to coach Chet. That's the only reason he gets higher. I want to coach Chet. Yeah, you guys think I want to coach the All-Star Chet. All-Star Chet. I'm looking forward to the draft, boys, next week. Good podcast, Case.
Has there ever been an NBA player named Chet that was any good?
Chet Stedman. I remember him from
the only Chet I know is Chet Hanks.
Chet Stedman's the only one I know from rookie. That's the only one I know. Other than that one, I don't know another one. I wanted to shout out a couple tweets we got this week. I posted on Case this week about what draft. I asked you guys just a few minutes ago what draft you like, the NBA draft or the NFL draft. Right now, the NFL draft is leading. Let's see the percent. I think they're leading like 75%. Most people have voted. We got like 22 votes so far. Ryan G, who I'm a big fan of. I know I'm looking forward to our Grizzlies Warriors games next year with him, and actually during the offseason tweeting with him. But he said his favorite draft was the 93 draft because Penny Hardaway. I was like, well, that draft's a tough one for Warriors fans. I remember my Uncle Paul ripping on that one at round table, like just why did they draft Chris Webber? And obviously, my Uncle Paul, he probably hated Chris Webber because of the baggy shorts. And then
he loved a little thigh, didn't
he? He probably did not like that. And then he also mentioned that, or that I said that the Warriors end up getting Tom Gugliotta ultimately for Chris Webber. So that draft is horrible. I said that draft is a terrible one. And then Ant asked me about the 98 draft with Carter and Jamison. That one does always stand out for me. I remember coming home from soccer practice. They didn't have iPhones or any of that garbage. And I was like, who did they take? I just missed the pick. And I see they took Jamison, and I was like, yes. I was like, because I wanted Antoine. He was the player of the year for North Carolina. And then 1 week into the NBA season, I see that dunk that he has against the Pacers. And I was like, no, I want Vince Carter. I was like, I want Vince Carter now. Antoine was a solid player, but those were the ones there. So those are the two drafts that a couple of our guys mentioned there that stood out. They're going forward. So I think during the offseason, maybe next week we'll do a little redraft here of one of the recent drafts, getting ready for the new one here. So Casey, thanks for joining us. Tyler, good pod here on the Dennis Rodman pod, number 91 here. Let's go to Vegas, boys. Let's go.
A lot of Chicago Bulls mentioned today.
Go to Vegas. All right. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Appreciate anybody that supported us. Whoever the 95th subscriber was that went down, you can go straight to where. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
Later.